Hi there, Barbie lovers. Welcome back to Busy Bee from Germany. I'm Busy Bee from Germany, and today I'd like to ask you, what's the weather outside? Here I have a lot of sunshine, and that brings me to the idea to continue with the sleeveless top for Francie and give her sleeves. It's super easy. I give you an instruction here how to sew the whole top. We continue in where we stopped in March, and it's really easy, believe me. I show you everything you need and how we continue in this case. Here's the top that we made in the first part. Just wanted to show you this again. And so in the first video we made this pattern here from scratch, and I doubled it and added some seam allowance, and then we get something like you see above. And then I cut a piece for the collar to make it nice looking, and for this video I only added a sleeve. This is my Francie with a sleeved version of this top, and I made a sleeve a long time ago, and I played around and found this is the right shape for Francie and Barbie. The first version was longer that you see here. I don't want to bore you so much, and that's why I already prepared everything here. I prepared the fabric, the marking, the collar piece is already placed on top of the top itself, and I have prepared the sleeve parts with yarn, so that it makes me sewing in easier because I can push a bit, and that makes sewing a bit easier for me. And I have already prepared here the sleeve holes and cut them a bit to make the whole process easier. And now I'd like to go to my sewing machine and show you what we do next. So I thought it's easier to comment after having sewn the top, and that's what I do here. So give me some time to comment this now. I have started with the collar first. I wanted to do a nice collar, and so I added a piece of fabric that we can do a nice seam on the collar to make it look very professional. That was my first starting point here, which you already saw in the video before, but I just wanted to do it in a professional way. After having sewn the two pieces together, I cut away the excess fabric and I prepare it for the next step, which is to fold the collar piece to the back side and put it in place. So I sewed the part back on. I know it's a bit of work, but I think it's worth the effort because the result is very well looking. It's very fine. Here's a quick overview over what we have done until now, and the next step is to sew the sleeve parts into the body part, which is not so super easy. I think you should not do it when you are a beginner because you need some skills and you need some patience to do this, believe me. I have done this a few times and it's getting better, but I'm still not perfect in sewing sleeves in, but I know how to do it and what to look for, and yeah, just watch me. I did here some tacking stitches for the whole top. You don't see me remove them, but I did it for the whole piece because I wanted to do it in a good quality and I think it's worth the effort. And that helps a lot when you sew sleeves for the first time because the fabric does want to slip away and it's not super easy when you have it under your sewing machine to find the right way so that the two pieces that belong together go in the way together they should go together. So it's something like when you have two children running in opposite directions somehow, so they are not willing to play with each other, I think. I check the seams for sleeve always 3 to 4 times to see any seams that are not perfect because you have to remove them and get any folds out. So it's not super easy, but I do this with a lot of care and at the end I had success with my method here. But today my seams seem not to be very cooperative today because when I just did the white draft they were much more cooperative than they were here in this video. But it's always when you film something then everything goes wrong. I planned enough time for the sewing in here, so it was no problem, but when you are in a hurry, that's no good idea to start with sleeves. Just take your time and it will work for you. No matter how hard you try, but it's always good when you have enough time for your sewing projects and you are not in a hurry. I then removed the tacking stitches for the sleeves and ironed the sleeves and pressed the seam on the back side open, so I was able after that to cut the excess fabric away here too and make the seam as small as possible. After the removal of the excess fabric from the sleeves, I sewed the breast darts into the fabric, which was also an adventure because they are so small and you have to do some tacking stitches to keep the fabric in place. If you don't do it, you get a non-perfect result and that's not what I wanted, so I did here everything off cam and only showed you here the sewing itself in cam, which made of course the project longer than you can imagine, but just a little story from the back. And after finishing the breast darts, I heard the end of the sleeves calling my name. I also wanted a nice seam at the end of the sleeves, and so I sewed them in. I started the seams for the sleeve ends as a next step here in this project. And compared to the sleeves themselves, it was really easy to do the seam for the sleeves. So the next sewing step was to sew the sleeves together, that we get at least the complete sleeve in the end. I also sewed the rest of the body part together so that we got kind of a top on both sides, and that was a huge step towards the end of the project because after this I only had a few seams left I made little cuts after finishing the two parts together so that we get the top, because I wanted a big mobility, a big freedom, that Francie can move herself in this outfit. For dolls it's not so super important, but it's easier when you put the clothes on the dolls that you get a nice fit as well. The cuts under the arms, for example, were something that I was taught by older seamstresses who had more experience. I must say they were totally right. And then I still had some very, very tiny darts in the back of this fabric that I had to sew in, and it was really horrible. The tinier the darts, the harder it is to sew, and I had to have a good eye on my machine, what it was doing when I was sewing in these teeny tiny darts. Then I had to sew in the back sides of the garment. I had left 0.5 centimeters on each side for a nice closure, so that we have enough fabric to make this look good at the end. So here's the result. I think it's looking nice. I like the result. What about you? Let me know in the comments below. Now our top has sleeves. Here's again the other Francie with the sleeveless top here that we started with several weeks ago, and now the top has sleeves. Super easy, isn't it? My dear viewers, thank you for staying until the end of this video. Here's our little Francie in her new top. I hope you like this little top. And tell me in the comments, do you think you can reproduce it with the steps I showed you in this video? And I hope you have learned something along this journey here. Please don't forget to share, like and subscribe. See you very, very soon. Your Visibee from Germany. Bye!